Some truths are not shouted. They are lived. It began with the flash of sirens on a quiet morning. Zara Ellison had barely turned onto Holston Avenue when the red and blue lights flared behind her. She pulled her car to the side of the road, calm and steady, as though she had done this before. She had, more times than she could count. Dana Vance stepped out of her patrol car with the slow, deliberate pace of someone in no hurry to discover the truth, only to prove a point. Her hand rested too casually on the grip of her holstered weapon. Her eyes narrowed as she approached the window, already forming a verdict. The driver lowered the window. "Good morning," Zara said, voice calm and warm. Her hands rested on the steering wheel. Dana did not answer right away. She simply stared. "Do you know why I stopped you?" Zara met her eyes. "No, officer. Please tell me." Dana's tone was sharp. "You crossed into the left lane without signaling." Zara nodded gently and reached for the glove compartment. Slowly, calmly. "Here are my license and registration." Dana barely glanced at them. She read the name aloud, drawing it out as though it meant something. "Where are you headed?" "To work," Zara answered. "What kind of work?" Zara did not blink. "The kind that keeps people like you from crossing the line." Something in Dana's jaw tightened. "Excuse me?" Zara tilted her head slightly. "I said I'm going to work, officer." Dana stepped back. She did not like the way Zara spoke. Too poised, too certain. There was no fear, no stammering, no pleading like she had seen in others. Only a quiet grace that felt like a challenge. "Interesting," Dana muttered, writing something in her notebook. "You people always think you're above the rules." Zara did not respond, but her eyes sharpened. "I'm sorry, did you just say you people?" Dana did not look up. "I said what I said." A long silence stretched between them. Then Zara leaned forward slightly. "Perhaps you should think twice before taking your next step." The words were not loud, but they landed with weight. Dana's posture stiffened. "Is that a threat?" "It's advice," Zara said softly. "But you're free to ignore it. That's the beauty of America, isn't it?" Dana stared. She recognized that tone, the one used by people who know exactly what the law says and how to use it. Her pride began to twist. She took the papers and walked back to her patrol car, each step sounding louder in her mind than on the pavement. Seated behind the wheel, she looked at Zara's license again. Something about that face, that name, buzzed in her memory like static. Then she remembered a protest, years earlier, an internal affairs hearing where her own badge had been on the line. The room had been filled with activists, shouting and filming. One woman had stood out. She had not shouted or filmed. She had simply sat near the front, taking notes in a navy blazer. She had spoken only once, but it had been enough to shake the room. Dana's eyes narrowed. "Ellis," she whispered. She opened the citation software and added extra notes. Non-compliant attitude, hostile tone, refused to follow instructions. Then she paused. That was not enough. Dana opened a blank document and began writing a complaint. Obstruction of duty, verbal intimidation, emotional distress caused by an aggressive civilian. It was a stretch, but no one questioned an officer's version, especially when it was written in clean official language. Back at Zara's window, Dana handed over the ticket with a tight smile. This could have been easier. Zara took it without flinching. "You mean easier for you?" Dana forced a smile. "I hope you have a good lawyer." Zara folded the ticket, slipped it into her bag, and spoke with such calm that Dana stopped short. "I don't need a lawyer," she said. "I know the law better than you think." Dana hesitated. Zara added, voice edged with steel. "Whatever game you think you're playing, make sure you're not the one being watched." Dana did not answer, but she felt the shift, like someone had struck a match in a room full of gas, and now she could only smell the fumes. That night, alone in her apartment, Dana read her complaint 3 times before hitting send. She did not just want to file it. She wanted to get ahead of Zara, to silence that superior calm that felt like mockery. She thinks she's clever, Dana muttered aloud. We'll see how clever she is in court. Across the city, Zara opened the email without surprise. She read it slowly, as though confirming something she had already suspected. Then she smiled, not because she found it amusing, but because the moment had finally arrived. She turned to the framed photograph of her late father, a federal judge, and whispered, "Looks like I'm going to make you proud." With that, the real battle began. Donna Vance sat in her kitchen, lit only by the cold glow of her computer screen. The cursor blinked at the end of a sentence she had rewritten 3 times, still unsatisfied. She typed slowly. The subject caused extreme emotional distress through verbal hostility and veiled threats during a lawful traffic stop. She paused, read it again, and added a final touch. The plaintiff seeks damages for reputational harm and psychological trauma. It sounded official. Solid. She liked that. She leaned back, cracked her knuckles, and looked at the name on the document. Zara Ellis. Her lips curved. Dana was no stranger to this kind of thing. In recent years, she had watched officers around her lose jobs, pensions, and peace of mind, all because of accusations woven by people who knew how to weaponize outrage. She was not going to be one of them. Her phone rang. It was Kyle Harlan, her longtime legal advisor and former academy classmate. Dana put it on speaker. "Are you serious about this?" Kyle's voice carried a note of disbelief. "You want to file a civil lawsuit over a traffic stop?" Dana did not miss a beat. It wasn't just a stop. It was calculated disrespect. She provoked me, tried to manipulate the interaction. You weren't there, Kyle sighed. I'm just saying a lawsuit like this is messy. If she turns out to have real backing, or worse, media savvy, you're going to look petty. Dana's voice sharpened. You weren't there, Kyle. She looked at me like I was beneath her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't curse. But every word dripped with superiority. She wanted me to know she wasn't afraid, that she thought I was a joke. Kyle was silent for a second. Then, with a half laugh, he said, So now we're suing people for having better posture? Dana's eyes narrowed. Do you think I'm overreacting? Kyle chose his words carefully. I think you're letting pride cloud your judgment. I'm just advising you. Do what you want. I already did, Dana replied flatly. I filed it this morning. Local court. She'll get the papers next week. There was a pause. Then Kyle muttered, Your funeral. Dana hung up. She tossed the phone onto the table and stood. Her reflection in the kitchen window caught her attention. A woman hardened by years on the job, jaw set, shoulders squared, believing she was standing for something bigger than herself. But beneath that was something else, something she did not dare name. That afternoon at the station, Dana recounted the situation to two of her colleagues, laughing dryly as she imitated Zara's calm voice. She gave me that look, like she had a degree in her purse and a camera on the dash. A younger Latina officer named Torres raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you want to go down this road? There are rumors she might not be an ordinary person. Dana waved her off. She's just another arrogant social warrior. Probably spends her weekends organizing podcast panels and quoting Malcolm X out of context. Torres did not argue. But when Dana turned away, Torres stepped aside and sent a short text from her phone. You should see this. That night, Zara sat on the edge of her perfectly made bed, holding her phone. She had read the email twice, the civil complaint, the accusations, the language that dripped with Dana's signature blend of self-righteousness and suspicion. She did not speak for a long time. Her young associate across the room finally asked, Should we go public with this? Bring it into the light. Zara shook her head. Not necessary, not yet. Then she folded the printout slowly and set it on her nightstand. Her voice was calm, but not cold. I expected this day to come. I just didn't know it would come from someone so predictable. The associate frowned. Predictable? Zara smiled faintly. When people confuse silence with weakness, they always play too hard. With that, she rose, walked to the window, and looked out over the soft glow of the city. There was no anger in her eyes, only certainty, the kind built not in moments of rage, but in years of knowing exactly who you are. Zara sat in the quiet of her living room, curtains drawn against the city lights. The only sound was the soft ticking of the clock above the fireplace, as though time itself had paused to listen. Across from her, in the worn leather chair her father once occupied, sat her niece Elena, curious, concerned, and waiting in silence for an explanation. "I know that name," Zara said at last, voice calm but grave. "Dana Vance. I met her before she ever wore a badge." She leaned back, eyes fixed on a point beyond the walls. "Years earlier, I was still working as an assistant U.S. attorney. Dana was part of a precinct under federal review. There had been complaints, excessive use of force, falsified reports, harassment. It was a mess." She paused, lips pressed together for a moment before continuing. "Dana was young then. She hadn't done anything criminal yet, but she was on the wrong path. Arrogant, defiant. Everyone in the office wanted her removed from the force. They said she would end up in the headlines. But I saw something else. I saw someone trying too hard to prove she belonged, even if that meant crossing the line." Elena looked confused. "You defended her?" Zara nodded slowly. "I pushed for internal discipline instead of formal charges. I wrote the recommendation myself. I said she deserved a chance to grow, to prove people wrong. I believed maybe she just needed someone to bet on her." She laughed softly, not from humor, but from memory. "I even met her once, briefly. She never looked me in the eye. Probably didn't even register my name. I was just another suit in an office that didn't matter to her." After the ink dried, there was a pause. Elena leaned forward. "But why didn't you say something during the traffic stop? Now she's suing you. You have every right to crush her." Zara turned her gaze toward the window. "Exactly why I stayed silent." She rose and walked to a framed photograph above the fireplace. Her father in uniform, a young black man, standing tall, despite the weight on his shoulders. "My father was once humiliated by an officer in public, in front of his students. He never raised his voice. He never filed charges. But I watched him carry that moment for the rest of his life." She touched the edge of the frame, fingers brushing the glass. "He taught me that power isn't about hitting back. It's about holding up the mirror long enough for others to see who they truly are." Her voice lowered, but the firmness beneath it did not waver. "I didn't hide my identity because I was afraid. I wanted to see how far Dana would go if she thought no one was watching. I needed to know if she had changed, or if she had simply gotten better at hiding the same old rot." Elena whispered, "And now you know." Zara nodded. "Now I do." She returned to the chair and sat with the grace of someone who had carried truth far longer than pain. "I'm not going to seek revenge. That's what she expects. That's what everyone expects. But I will respond. I will walk into that courtroom with every fact, every moment, every decision she has made. And I will let the system she believes protects her speak for me." Elena swallowed hard. "Do you think she even remembers your name?" Zara smiled, not widely, not bitterly, but with quiet, knowing calm. "She will." The first day in court arrived with the usual morning stillness that always seems to warn that something is coming. Dana Vance entered the courtroom with the attitude of someone who believed she already knew the outcome. Her gray suit was sharply pressed, her hair pulled back tightly, and her lips curved in the smug smile of a woman convinced the system belonged to her to command. She greeted the local cameras outside, and even offered a few comments about maintaining dignity in uniform. Cameras clicked, microphones hummed. Headlines had already been drafted before the courtroom doors even opened. Police officer faces noisy defendant, in civil lawsuit. Inside, Zara sat quietly at the defense table. No legal team, no entourage, only herself. A modest navy dress, a single folder, calm, serene. As though the chaos swirling around her had never touched her. The courtroom whispered with speculation. Is she really representing herself? Is she so broke she can't afford a lawyer? Does she actually think she can win against a decorated officer? Dana looked at her with amusement. She's going to eat dirt, she muttered to her lawyer, not even bothering to lower her voice. At the center sat a man in his 60s, with a well-defined hairline and a gavel that preferred to speak louder than he did. He reviewed the file, looked at Zara, then at Dana, and leaned forward. Miss Ellis, he said, adjusting his glasses. Since you have chosen to represent yourself, I will ask that your responses be clear and concise for the court's understanding. Zara did not flinch. She simply nodded. No protests, no explanations. Only a stillness that felt out of place. She was not uncertain or defensive. She was watchful, as though she were not merely defending herself, but waiting. From the gallery, a young man in his 30s sat in the last row, dressed like an intern, but with eyes that missed nothing. He had not moved since Zara entered, but there was something in the way he leaned slightly forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped, as though he were ready for something. No one seemed to notice him, except Dana, who caught his gaze and, for a fraction of a second, tensed. She did not recognize him, but the quiet confidence unsettled her. The judge continued with preliminary proceedings, mostly administrative, mostly forgettable, until he called on Zara to present her defense. She rose, steady and slow, letting the silence fill the space before she spoke. Your Honor, she began, I respect the court's time and will speak only when necessary. Her voice was even, unshakable. It was not defensive. It was measured, controlled, and curiously professional. Dana leaned toward her lawyer. She's rehearsed, she muttered. Probably watched some courtroom shows on television, but something was shifting. At first it was small, the way the bailiff stole a second glance at Zara, the way the court reporter subtly adjusted her headset as though fine-tuning her attention. The room slowly began to feel the disconnect. This was not a nervous defendant fumbling for footing. This was someone with composure, bearing, training. Still, the judge continued. He set the next date. The plaintiff's team requested access to traffic recordings. Zara did not object. She nodded once more. Only once. But that simple gesture carried the weight of someone who already knew what was coming. As people began filing out of the courtroom, Dana passed Zara and leaned in. I don't know what game you think you're playing, she said quietly, but I've been in this system longer than you've been tying your shoes. Zara turned her head slowly. She met Dana's eyes. Then you should know better than to underestimate silence. With that, she walked away without hurry. Without triumph, simply with certainty. And in the last row, the young man rose and followed her at a distance. He did not speak, but as he passed the clerk's bench, he showed a badge with such discretion that it barely caught the light. The clerk's eyes widened slightly. He said nothing, but he had definitely noticed. The courtroom had not yet figured it out, but the stage was no longer merely set. The curtain had already begun to rise, and Dana Vance was still reading from the wrong script. By the second week of trial, the energy in the courtroom had already begun to shift, not physically, only the air within it. That kind of change you feel when someone enters and you are not sure whether you should stand or remain seated. Donna still arrived every day with the same rehearsed smile, greeting the press as though she were collecting fan mail. But her smile no longer fit well. It no longer reached her eyes. Zara arrived the same way she had the first day, alone, silent, serene. But this time she brought a thick folder with her. No legal team, No paralegals. Only herself and those documents that seemed to hum with quiet purpose. When the judge called her to respond to the plaintiff's claims, she rose slowly and opened that folder as though she had done so hundreds of times before. No drama, no speeches, only precision. "Your Honor," she began, "under Title 42, Section 1983, persons acting under color of law are liable when constitutional rights are violated without legal basis. The plaintiff's conduct during the traffic stop, without valid probable cause, invoked my right to relief under federal protections." She did not look at Dana. She did not need to. The room fell silent. People were not accustomed to hearing defendants cite federal code as though reciting poetry. But Zara was not finished. She pulled a document from the folder and placed it on the evidence table. "This is precedent from Brown v. Daniels, 2009, in which a court ruled that a civilian has the right to question the legitimacy of a detention when the officer's history includes disciplinary concerns." Dana's lawyer began to rise. "Objection, relevance." But Zara did not hesitate. She continued. "This is a redacted but verified copy of an internal affairs report on Officer Dana Vance regarding an incident involving excessive force and racist language during a detention in Cobb County, Georgia, years earlier. The complaint was closed after the lead prosecutor, I myself, decided not to pursue formal charges, believing at the time that the officer in question deserved a second chance." She paused. "I now realize I was wrong. It was as though someone had cut the air with a blade." Dana's face froze. Her mouth opened slightly, as though words could not find their way out. The judge leaned forward. "Are you stating before this court, under oath, that you were the prosecuting authority in that case?" Zara nodded. "Yes, and I currently serve as a federal prosecutor in the Department of Justice." The courtroom fell into absolute silence. One of the reporters dropped his pen. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh my God." Dana shot to her feet. "This is personal," she shouted, voice breaking. "She set me up. She wanted this from the beginning." Zara did not respond with anger. She simply turned to Dana and studied her the way someone studies a person they had once hoped would change. Then, softly but clearly, she said, "No, this is not personal. It is the law catching up to you." Dana's lawyer sat down without saying a word. The judge let out a long breath, as though he too had felt the full weight of the moment. Then something no one expected happened. From the gallery, an elegant, composed woman in a navy blazer rose and walked slowly down the aisle. It was Dana's wife, Alyssa. She did not look at Dana. She did not touch her. She simply stopped beside her seat and said softly, loud enough to be heard, "I'm done, Dana." So many times I told myself there was something I needed to know. Dana turned to her, desperate now. "Alyssa, please, you don't understand." "I do," Alyssa interrupted, voice flat. "I understand more than you wanted me to." Then she left. No shouting, no tears, only silence. Dana tried to follow, but the bailiff gently blocked her path. She returned to her seat, breathing unevenly, hands now trembling where they had once been steady. Outside, the world was already spinning. News vans repositioned. Editors rewrote headlines. By lunchtime, the story was everywhere. Federal prosecutor exposes racist officer and misguided civil lawsuit. Trial twist. The police officer who sued now faces her own past. One article unearthed Naomi's legal history, calling her the Silent Thunder, the prosecutor known for her calm and devastating precision in court. Another dubbed her the poster child for misunderstood privilege. Inside the courtroom, the trial continued, but nothing felt the same. Even Dana's lawyer barely looked at her. She tried to pull herself together, but the pieces were too many and already scattered. She turned to the judge, trying to plead for control. "She's using her position to destroy me," she said, voice low, almost pleading. But the judge, now clearly distant, replied, "You opened the door to this when you filed a civil lawsuit on false premises. This court will not be used to perpetuate false narratives or to shield past misconduct." Zara said nothing more that day. She did not need to. Her silence now echoed louder than any argument. Every word she had chosen, every moment she had waited, every restraint she had shown, all of it painted a single picture. And Dana Vance no longer held the brush. She was what the courtroom had always tried to deny it could harbor, a reflection of everything broken, arrogant and blind, in a system far too accustomed to believing itself just. At the end of that day, Dana sat slumped in her seat, surrounded by empty chairs where her colleagues had once sat. Zara, standing tall, had become more than a simple defendant. She had become the verdict. Zara Ellis became a name the headlines could not stop repeating. Federal prosecutor stuns courtroom. The silent woman who spoke louder than the law. Justice served with grace. Her story ran through the media machinery, turning it into a tale of triumph, righteous indignation, and poetic justice. But Zara never responded to any interview requests. She did not stand in front of any cameras. The truth was, Zara was not interested in becoming a symbol. She was not made for fame or spectacle. She sat in the quiet her father once kept, that place filled with the hum of memory. Her niece Elena, now a first-year political science student, sat beside her, phone buzzing every few seconds with a new alert about the case. "People are calling you a hero," Elena said. "Everyone wants to hear what you'll say next." Zara did not look up. She was watching a bee circle a patch of lavender, its movement so patient, so focused. "I didn't do this so they would hear me," she said softly. "I did it so she could hear herself, so everyone could." Elena frowned, confused. Zara turned to her, eyes soft but steady. "Justice isn't about punishment. It's about reminding people who they are and holding up the mirror when they forget." Dana forgot, but now she can't pretend anymore. Later that night, a colleague from the Department of Justice called. His tone was familiar, congratulatory, but expectant. "Could you bring criminal charges?" he said. "There's a clear path. Public opinion is on your side. We can move quickly." Zara sighed and leaned back in her chair. "Don't you understand? She's already lost more than the system could ever take from her. Her wife left. Her colleagues abandoned her. And now the world knows exactly who she is. That's a longer sentence than anything I could file." There was silence on the line. Then, almost reluctantly, her colleague whispered, "You're not just a prosecutor, Zara. You're something else entirely." The call ended. She set the phone down and stepped out onto the small stone patio beneath the oak tree, her father's favorite resting place. She knelt, brushed away a fallen leaf, and placed her hand gently on the cool surface. "They tried to humiliate you, Dad," she whispered, "and I carried that memory for years. But today, I didn't fight with rage. I let the law speak the language we were taught to fear." The breeze shifted. A crow landed on the nearby fence, caught something, and flew away. Zara stood, letting the silence wrap around her like a blanket. Her phone vibrated again, another request for a televised statement. She turned the screen face down. She did not need the world to applaud. She did not need a podium. She had not fought for revenge. She had fought for clarity. And finally, it had arrived. A few days after the courtroom emptied and the media storm began to calm, Zara received an email from a private encrypted account. No subject line, no message. Only an attachment titled, "Dana's Statement, Final Edit." She hesitated for a moment before clicking play. The video began with Dana Vance, seated on a simple gray couch, hair pulled back, eyes swollen and red. Soft piano music played faintly in the background, the kind you might hear in a political ad about unity or redemption. Her voice cracked on the first words. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said, pausing as though holding back tears. I was raised in a world that taught me things I'm still unlearning, and now I know what I did was wrong. I'm not proud of it." She clasped her hands, lowered her head. "But I'm not a monster. I'm just another victim of a divided society. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things we regret. And maybe I became the face of something I never wanted to represent." Zara watched in silence, face expressionless, breathing steady. She did not blink much. She did not react when Dana began to cry again, louder this time, as though performing the pain for an audience that never arrived. "I ask for forgiveness," Dana continued. "Not for the sake of my reputation, but so I can begin to heal, and maybe help others heal too." The screen faded to black. Then a message appeared. "Please share. Help change the narrative." Zara remained seated for a long time. No movement, no expression. Only that same steady gaze. Then, without saying a word, she closed the laptop, picked up her phone, opened the email, and deleted it. No reply. No forwarding. Not even saving it for the record. She erased it as though it had never existed. That same night, while folding laundry in silence, her sister called. "Did you get Dana's video?" she asked. "I got it," Zara answered. Calm as ever. "Well," her sister pressed, "she's still talking to be seen." Zara placed a folded shirt carefully into the drawer. "She's talking to be seen," she said. "Not to be understood. Not to change." There was a pause on the line, then a sigh. "Do you think she'll ever actually change?" Zara did not answer right away. She stood by the window, watching two children ride their bicycles down the street, shouting and laughing with that boundless freedom only children possess. "She had a chance," Zara said finally. "The law gave her grace. I gave her grace. And now she's trying to rewrite the story, not because she believes in a different truth, but because the world stopped applauding." "And if she apologizes again?" her sister asked. Zara closed the drawer gently. "Then she'll be apologizing to herself." She walked to the bookshelf and pulled out a thin, leather-bound notebook. Inside were pages of old notes from her early days as a prosecutor. Quotes, ideas, reminders from mentors long gone. On the inside flap, in faded black ink, her father had scrawled one line. "Don't let the loudest voice decide what is true." Zara smiled faintly. Then she placed the notebook back in its spot. That night, Zara decided she would never speak Dana's name again. Not in conversation, not in public, not in memory. Not because she was erasing the past, but because Dana no longer held power in her story. In her silence, there was no revenge. There was closure. And in a world where everyone fights to be seen, Zara's choice not to look back said everything. The courthouse hallway was quiet. Strangely quiet. The trial had ended. Crowds had gone. No journalists. No whispers. Only polished tile floors, pale morning light, and that strange electric stillness that happens right before something irreversible occurs. Zara was leaving a meeting with court clerks when she felt it. That unmistakable tension in the air, like a current brushing her skin before a storm. And when she looked up, there was Dana Vance, standing halfway down the hallway. Alone. No badge. No lawyer. Just a woman with tired eyes and a gaze caught somewhere between shame and defiance. They did not speak at first. Seconds stretched like minutes. The silence grew heavy. Dana's eyes searched Zara's face, as though hoping to find something softer than the memory of what had just happened in court. Zara gave her no softness. She gave her clarity. Slowly, calmly, Zara stepped forward, reached into her bag, and pulled out a small object wrapped in a handkerchief. Dana watched, confused, until Zara stopped directly in front of her, close enough that the silence became almost unbearable. Then, without saying a word, Zara placed the wrapped object on the marble bench beside them. She unwrapped it. A mirror, not decorative, not symbolic. Just a simple silver-edged compact, its surface slightly scratched but clean. Clear. Zara then pulled out a folded piece of paper and placed it beside the mirror. Dana blinked. "What is this?" she asked, voice cracking. Zara did not hesitate. "What you came here to find." Her tone was calm but sharp, like a blade that did not need to be raised to draw blood. Dana picked up the paper first, fingers trembling. Her eyes scanned the header. Notice of declination to prosecute Officer Dana Vance. A final signed federal document. She looked up. "You're not filing charges." "No," Zara answered, her gaze steady. "You will never stand trial in a courtroom. You're already in a worse place." Dana's voice rose, part defensive, part wounded. "So this is your power play? Show mercy so everyone thinks you're better than me?" Zara took one step closer. "No, Dana. This isn't about mercy, it's about truth. You were given a second chance once. You chose pride over growth. Now, I want you to see exactly what that pride has cost you." Dana's breathing became shallow. Her hand moved toward the mirror, hesitant, as though it might burn her. "You think I don't feel it?" she said, voice breaking. "My wife left. My friends won't return my calls. I have reporters digging through my past like vultures. I know you ruined it, Naomi." Zara did not move. "Then look," she said softly, gesturing toward it. "Mirror, see the person who did it. Not the uniform, not the headlines." Dana finally lifted the mirror. She looked at herself. She did not see homeless or disgraced officer. She saw the woman Zara had once defended, the same one she had hoped would change. And she saw something worse. She saw someone who had not. Tears came then. Not in front of cameras, not as part of a broadcast apology. They were real, small, quiet. She whispered, "Why did you forgive me?" Zara did not answer right away. Then she leaned in close enough for Dana to hear, but not close enough to be mistaken for comfort. "Because I had to decide who I wanted to become, and I chose not to become you." Dana turned her face away, ashamed. Zara stepped back, took one final breath, and turned to leave. But before she did, she spoke one last time. Voice low. Certain. Final. Justice doesn't wait, Dana. It moves forward, whether you're ready or not. And with that, Zara walked toward the light at the end of the hallway, head high, steps steady, leaving behind a woman, a mirror, and a silence louder than any verdict. It was just after 7 when Zara entered the office. The soft hum of fluorescent lights greeted her like an old friend. The world outside had already moved on. Headlines had shifted. Reporters had found new scandals to chase. But inside these 4 walls, justice still sat quietly on its perch, watching, waiting, working. She moved with the same calm certainty as always, setting down her bag, opening the blinds just enough to let the morning sun touch the edges of her desk. The warmth slid across the room, slowly brushing the frame of a photograph that always sat in the far corner, a black and white photo. A young man with a strong face and wounded eyes. Her father. The man who once knelt on a sidewalk with hands raised, while officers shouted and strangers watched. The man who never raised his voice about what had happened, but who taught his daughter that dignity could survive even where justice failed. Zara looked at that photo for a moment, as she often did, not with regret, but with something firmer, like a vow she had made and kept. Then came a knock at the door. It was soft, hesitant, the kind of knock someone gives when they are not yet sure they belong. Zara turned and saw her new intern in the doorway, barely 22, still holding a folder as though it might explode. "Good morning, ma'am," the young woman said, nerves in her voice. "I was organizing the old case files and saw some of your trial records. I hope it's okay to ask, but have you ever lost a case?" Zara paused. Then she gave a small smile, the kind that does not rush to defend itself. She did not answer with words, at least not right away. Instead, she walked to the cabinet, pulled a file from the top drawer, and handed it to the intern. "Start with this," she said softly. "It's about a man who was wrongly accused because someone thought silence meant guilt." The intern nodded, not quite sure what to make of that, and slipped out quietly, leaving Zara alone once more. She turned back to her desk. The light was stronger now, spilling across the room and landing on something silver just beside her keyboard. The mirror was still there, still simple, still reflecting only what stood before it. Zara did not pick it up. She did not need to. It was not there to check appearances. It was not a reminder of Dana, or the trial, or anything so fleeting. It was simply a symbol of the moment when someone finally saw themselves as they truly were, not as they wished to be. And sometimes that is enough. She sat, fingers resting on the desk, eyes scanning the morning emails she had not yet read. Life does not pause for resolution. It keeps moving forward. Justice is not a destination. It is a direction, a way of walking, not a place you arrive. Outside, the city was beginning to wake. Horns, footsteps, voices overlapping one another. But inside that room there was a softness, a stillness, a kind of echo that did not need to be loud to endure. And as the voiceover drifts smooth and steady and sure, not shouting, simply stating, some truths are not shouted, they are lived. This story touched you, even in its quietest moments. Take a second to let it stretch beyond this screen. Zara's journey was never about revenge. It was about dignity, about holding up a mirror to injustice without raising your voice, and about reminding us that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it simply refuses to break. Keep growing stories that reflect truth, challenge bias, and speak to the power of character. Please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful, unforgettable narratives. Your support means more than you know. Every like, every comment, every new subscriber gives our team the strength to keep telling the stories others overlook. The ones that don't just fill time, but fill hearts. Because here, we don't chase headlines. We chase what truly matters.